Hi everyone, welcome to the new episode of AI Makers Unpacked series. And today we have an interesting and an exceptional leader. And I'll tell you why I'm saying interesting and exceptional. Serge DeVos. Before I introduce Serge DeVos, let me talk about why he's an exceptional and interesting leader. One, exceptional because often leaders are bracketized in terms of doing one stint, one organization, one geography, one set of teams largely, and then they say the career is getting over. Well, that's not the case with Serge. Second, when I say exceptional, he has moved geographies. He has handled diverse, culturally, I would say, different teams. And also in terms of kind of the stints, what he has taken over the years in terms of functional, I would say, stints to kind of taking up as a lead of AB and Bev GCC in India, scaling it up and then taking on a different assignment altogether. That requires what I call exceptionalism in terms of the professional attributes. And that's where Serge DeVos brings to the table. Welcome, Serge, to AI Makers Unpack series.
Thank you, Samir. What an amazing introduction. I'm honored to be here in your AI Makers Unpacked session.
Thank you so much. Serge, let me start with your professional journey. And both of us have interacted multiple times in the past, but for the audience and participants, this would be, I would say, a very unique perspective. You are born and bred up in Belgium, did some stints in Czech Republic and in India, and 15 years you spent with AB and Bev and done multiple assignments and grew very, I would say, rapidly in AB and Bev. But more importantly, let me first touch upon this cultural aspect. Belgium, Czech Republic, India are all three different geographies. How did you manage to cope up with these three geographies altogether? One, of course, is your motherland, for sure.
Yeah,
So help us share some nuggets, please.
yeah. No, it's been a very interesting journey. So I grew up in Belgium, as you said, and then I spent the first 10 years of my career based in Belgium, but in a very international role. So I was already interacting with quite a lot of international people at that moment in time. And then after 10 years, joined AB InBev. Again, worked for another 2 years in Belgium. Very international role, traveling to all sides of the world, managing a tech role. And then after 2 years in AB InBev, there was an opportunity that came by, which was in the Czech Republic. So I discussed with my wife and said, okay, what do we think here? Should we go to the Czech Republic? Is this something that we want to do? Because we already had kids at that moment in time. But both of us liked the adventure and said, okay, let's move. Let's go and explore other cultures and see what this means to us and how we can grow as people. So we moved to the Czech Republic, lived there for about 4 years, then moved back to Belgium, lived in Belgium for 5 years. And in fact, the integration, it's quite interesting because when you move out of your home country, you go to Czech Republic, it's a very different culture, right? Even though it's in Europe, it's only 1,000 kilometers away from Belgium. It's not very far, but it's a very different culture. The language is completely different. You do not recognize anything at all compared to your own language. So it's a little bit difficult to adjust in the beginning. But also, interestingly, is when you go back into Belgium, it's difficult to adjust because you got used to a different type of culture, different type of people, ecosystem, economy, etc. And then again, we lived in Belgium for 5 years, and then there was an opportunity to go to India. So again, discussion with my wife and kids at the time because they were already quite grown up. And so okay, let's go to India. This experience in the Czech Republic was so positive in the family that we said, hey, we want to do this again and let's go to India. And then of course, moving from Europe to India is a bigger shock still than moving to Eastern Europe in the beginning. But now, as you know, I'm moving back to Belgium in the summer, and it's going to be again a reintegration because we'll be going from a country with 1.3 billion people, a huge growing economy, the home of tech, analytics, startups, everything is happening here. I'm going back to my country, which is smaller than Bangalore. And yeah, in a different stage of its economic cycle. No, it's not in that startup type of stage, at least not as it is here. So yeah, it's very, very interesting to move, I think, between those cultures, and the amount of learning, I think, is huge, that you can really do as a leader if you go into a different country.
No, I think that's you well summarized. I think this is very, I would say, unique because often, as I mentioned at the beginning of my narration, leaders actually try to play safe, if I may say that. And that playing safe is all about saying, okay, I got to spend 25, 30, 35 years in my career, how I can actually plan those kind of, let's say, moves which are risk averse. Uh,
Mm,
you took some moves which are absolutely laden with risk because by no means change of geography is not easy. I mean, it's all about family getting acclimatized to
mm,
you getting used to the new culture, workplace, uh, the employees on the other side getting used to new culture. But if I look back and uh, I've often admired the way you've built AB and Bev, and I want to spend some time over there taking some insights from you. From scratch, almost a zero base, the whole AB and Bev GCC today have scaled up to 2,200 professionals and doing, I would say, a very strategic as well as a very set of large work for AB and Bev as a parent
mm.
company. Give us some understanding when you took this assignment. What went into your mind first? Second, how did you manage to come out with some initial hiccups, which always happen, the initial challenges? And then what were your learnings throughout your this stint with AB and Bev, specifically from India GCC side?
Yeah. So it was 2018 when I arrived here, but the first time I came to India, when we set up our center, was in 2016. Yeah. So we set up the center in 2016 with the help of a service provider. And I remember being here on the hotel in the morning, taking a swim before going to the meeting, and thinking, might be that AB InBev will ask me in the future to move to India. So I already started thinking about moving to India in 2016.
Hmm.
I started preparing my wife and my family because I really wanted to do it. But I knew that for the family, it would not be that easy because my kids were already a little bit older at that moment in time. They were like 14, 12, and 6 or 7 at that moment in time. So I knew it was not going to be that easy. But then 2018, we all arrived, and so we had 2 years of successful running of the GCC with a service provider, and then 1st of March 2018, we decided to bring it in house, basically, and that's why I moved to India, is to lead the center. Then once it was in house, so we started off with around 800 people that we transitioned, and then now we're about 2,200. But I think the center has completely changed. What I do remember very well is that when I arrived here, um, my VP at that time, I need to mention him, was Ricardo Farias. He's a legend in AB InBev and also here in India with NASCOM. And he already told me on day one, okay, so your assignment here is to make this a benchmark GCC. Yeah? So we just started off. We're one of the last GCCs probably to enter, not the last ones, but we're very late. If you look at all the GCCs that have been established already many years before.
Right.
And he said, okay, your job here is in the next 3 to 4 years to make this a benchmark GCC. And he already from day one referred me to analytics, AI, machine learning. So he said, man, this is the market that is booming with startups, AI, tech, analytics. You will find that capability here, and we need to transform our office using that potential of India and of Bangalore. Right? That was the assignment that I got. Of course, on top of just bringing the center in house, which in itself is already quite a challenge. So
No,
yeah.
I think that's amazing what you said because as you rightly said, the benchmarks do not get set up when GCC gets initiated. It gets set up when things starts rolling. Uh, how were your initial days, Serge, when you started this
Hmm.
role? What kind of challenges or learnings you kind of encountered, and if you recall back any interesting anecdote or incident you would like to highlight?
Yeah, there's probably three things. Let me try to remember all three here.
Sure.
Maybe I'll call them out first. I think first of all, the first challenge is to get used to the culture, right? Because all of a sudden, I'm managing a team of 800 people in India, in a very different culture than where I've worked for the previous, no, what was it, 15 years already, at that time in my career, right, or more even. Second is we're bringing the center in-house, which means it's an operation that isn't yet fully stable. People are becoming AB InBev, so there's a big transition that you need to manage. And then third, what I just mentioned is that on top of that, let's bring AI into this operation. So those were the three challenges that I had, and probably in all three, there's a lot of nowadays funny stories, but at that time, maybe less funny and a lot more scary. But in terms of the culture, of course, I made my mistakes. I think what I did very often, and I think this is a learning that I have from doing those international moves, is as quickly as possible get to know the culture of the country that you're working in. Right? So get to know the culture of the people, the country, and so I do a couple of things to really integrate into the country. First thing is I started learning Hindi. So from day
Nice.
one, said, okay, let's have a Hindi teacher. Let's learn some Hindi, because when we do a town hall, I will speak every time at least one or two sentences in Hindi, right? So
Nice.
that's something I started off with. The second thing is start doing dancing, Bollywood dancing. So we kicked off the first town halls, and this was a shock, of course, to everybody. The first town halls, we kicked off with a dance, and we've been doing that ever since, right? So every single month we do a town hall, and every month there would be a group, a team that would do a dance. And so I was also on the stage, of course, several times. What else? No, bought a Royal Enfield, so get driving yourself in the traffic. So these are the type of things that I think you need to do once you move internationally, is really become part of the country. Don't just go and sit somewhere on the side and keep eating your own food and
Right.
having
Right.
your own habits. Really integrate into the country and get to know the people and their way of working. So I think that was crucial for the first challenges, managing 800 people in India, get to know the local culture and really get close to your people. So that's the first thing. And of course, I made my mistakes. I mean, I
Hmm.
always tell about some of the mistakes that I made where I was doing certain things that would be normal in Europe, but are not at all appreciated in the culture in India, right? So the way you give feedback, for example, is very different here than the way that you give feedback in Europe or in the US, right? So of
Right.
course I made my mistakes, but the good thing is that I realized when I made a mistake, and I would be able to correct it. Um, so that's the first thing. Second is the transition itself. Of course, you take over a new GCC. So I've been spending hours and hours, probably 14 hours a day. I started at midday, working till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. at night, every single day, even Friday evenings, on payment on time issues, on GRNI issues. I mean, everybody who's managing a GCC knows all those acronyms. But just getting that operation to run took us about 2 years to really stabilize everything and have it as an excellent operation. And then at the same time, trying to bring AI into that operation, which we had absolutely no clue. Right? I had no clue. I had to start reading a book. In fact, one of the first books that I read, Samir, was yours. No, you gave me your book there in 2018. So I started reading about what is analytics, what is AI, what is machine learning.
That was the first interaction we had actually at your office.
Yeah, so it was very useful to learn to read the book, to see some examples, and then we spent 1 year spending money with providers to find a way, how do we bring AI into back office, right? Because in fact it's a kind of a back office finance operation. How does AI and machine learning make sense? What are the benefits that we can drive? So first year we spent a lot of cash, but we didn't deliver any product. We didn't deliver any added value, no business value, nothing in the first year. Right. The good thing is that we kept on going. We made mistake after mistake. We kept on going, and then as from the second year, that team started taking off, and really started driving value in the operation.
Nice, nice. I think if I was just listening with rapt attention because these incidents, I'm sure, could be the learnings for many of the aspirants who are looking at this video and this particular episode because it's not easy to sometimes start when there are no benchmarks, no templates, no playbooks. And as you rightly said, that each and every day, I mean, as you said, that you spend 12 to 14 hours a day and almost for 2 consecutive years in terms of streamlining a lot of things, which looks very easy from the outside, but very difficult to kind of make it operational at scale. And this is exactly what you did when you took up this role. More also, I want to understand Surge aspect, which is crucial, and I want you to delve in terms of your best practices and observation is about team management.
Hmm.
2,200 folks at the GCC in India from AB InBev is a large workforce, and every employee, every professional is important. Now, specifically in your own way, in your own best practice, what kind of interventions, initiatives you started to one retain,
Hmm.
manage, and also this motivate this workforce?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I think I can talk hours about the answer. So let me try to give some concrete examples. No,
Sure.
because this is really to me is an art. I think it's an art, and it has to be a passion of the leader to really make that work. Right, to lead large organizations and to be able to attract top talent and to retain that talent. I think as a leader and as a full leadership team, yeah, you need to have a passion for the people that you have. You need to have a passion for everybody in your team. Yeah? And so, in those 4 years that we've been running the center here, we've created a whole playbook of initiatives that we have taken in those 4 years on how to engage our employees. And so employee engagement is like the most important KPI that we have to measure this, right? How passionate are people about the company, about their job, and would they recommend a friend of theirs to come work with our company? So we measure that every single year. And the first measurement that we took in 2018 was 68%. So 68% of the employees is really engaged with the company. And the
Mhm.
benchmark at the time in India was around 72%. It's kind of
Okay.
the
It's quite
median.
close.
So quite close, a little bit lower, but somewhere no, below the middle. Last year, we were at 86%.
Wow.
So a massive jump in terms of that employee engagement, and that I think is the consequence of all those initiatives that we took. And I'll give some examples. No? I think one of the most powerful examples that I've also set up in the Czech Republic is what I call the people ambassadors. No?
Hmm.
Basically, I call it create your own union, create your own employee union. So you bring together people from all levels except managerial levels. So this is not for managers, even not for first line managers. There's no managers involved. This is for everybody else. So for all the employees. And we basically every year would ask people to volunteer to become a people ambassador. And
Okay.
what does it mean? A people ambassador means somebody who will own the engagement of their team or their tower or their department. Yeah. So we would sit with them. I would sit with them personally, for example, at least once a month. We would have a meeting with all these people ambassadors. We would have like a team of 20 people. We would meet once a month and they would come and say, what are the real concerns, right? What are the issues? What are the concerns? What are the suggestions that they have as well, right? What are the recommendations that they have? So once a month we would meet so that really you involve everybody. You don't just involve your leadership team, but you involve everybody from the team in really making this an amazing place to work and to fix issues that I might not see, right? If you're leading such a huge team, one of the big disadvantages sometimes is that you get completely disconnected from what's actually
Correct.
happening.
Correct.
So I think that is crucial as a leader to really be connected to everybody. And that's one thing in my leadership style, which uh, I think is very important, right? And also one of the reasons why I think I get a lot of appreciation as being their leaders. I connect to everybody, to anyone. I don't care where you are in the company. You drop me an email and you say, "Hey, I would really like to talk because I have a concern or I have a suggestion or recommendation." I will always make time. I will sit down. We have a conversation with everyone, and because the good thing is you will get to know many people in your organization, and you will really get to know what is happening. Otherwise, you might think everything is great, but actually on the shop floor there's a different reality. So I think that's one of the key initiatives. And the second one is a huge investment in leadership capability, because it cannot just be up to you as the leader to bring this whole culture, right? You need to have a team of leaders that embraces that same type of culture, humble leadership style, supportive leadership style, developing people, recruiting top talent. The whole leadership team needs to have that same set of values. So from the first year, we've invested heavily in leadership programs. So we have leadership programs for first line manager, manager of managers, director level. We have created those programs that really help them. Okay, how to manage teams, how to give feedback to my team, how to develop my team, how to set a strategy for my organization, how to deliver business value. So very comprehensive programs that they go through. These are like 6 months, 8 months programs where they also would have exposure to the senior leadership. In several cases, even with a project. So they need to manage a project on top that they then present to the leaders. And in that way, you can make sure that your whole leadership team really embraces those same values. And that, yeah, creates an incredible power, right? If everybody has the same values and lives by those same principles, you can really make sure that this culture gets implemented at every single level.
Right, right. No, I think that's very important what you said about this leadership program and spate of initiatives what you do. And I particularly like the way you said this aspect about you being approachable, accessible. I mean, anyone dropping a note or walking in into your workplace and saying, "Look, I want to meet you," makes that, I would say, leadership very close to the
Mm.
employees and the workforce, and that's where the first level of connects gets established rather than keeping it in silos or being too distant from the workforce. Switching gears, Serge, I also want to understand aspect about specifically in GCCs, stakeholder management is a very, very critical aspect.
Yeah.
Uh, they're sitting miles away. You're sitting kind of, let's say, offshore. Uh, time gap, distance gap, communication gap because it's all virtual or through videos kind of a thing. What's been your learning around this? Because it's never something which you can typecast as a playbook.
No.
Stakeholders also come with their own mood swings and kind of their own kind of, let's say, the crest and troughs of the day, because that's normal for every human being and professional also. In your experience, how have you managed that expectation,
Mm.
specifically in a GCC side of the area? And are there some learnings which you would like to provide to us?
No. But I think in terms of stakeholder management, for me, it's a lot about there's two things, right? One is the really identifying all your stakeholders and really interacting with them very, very often, right? So really have a routine in place where every month at least you interact with your stakeholders, and that can be in a formal setting. Yeah? So some of it will be formal performance review sessions, but probably even more important is the informal setting, right? So really pick up the phone, have a conversation, and just talk. Give feedback, ask for feedback, align on certain topics. So those are two things. In terms of the formal feedback, what we have implemented in the GCC, which I also think is a very good practice, is what we call our NPS system, right? The Net Promoter Score, right?
Right.
Nothing new there. But what we've basically done is we've asked all our managers, so I think in total about 100 people, have listed all their key stakeholders, yeah, by name. Who are the key stakeholders in different countries, in the zones, no, for the team that I'm managing here. And those people once a month would get an NPS survey every single month they get that survey. And we would ask people to call their stakeholder, not just to send an email survey. So people will get an email survey for sure, but we would recommend leaders to really talk to those people once a month and get a very simple NPS score. Right? Literally only one question: would you recommend the GCC to other people? Very
Mhm.
simple, right? And there again, we started off with an NPS score 2 years ago, 3 years ago, of minus 40, I think, at that moment in time. So
Really?
even though the operation was stable and the SLAs
Right.
were being
Right.
achieved and KPIs were pretty green, we started doing this NPS score and we got a feedback of like minus 40. Right? And then you can see that there is very often this difference between what your KPIs are saying and what people are actually thinking or hearing, or what is their perception. And you need to start managing that perception. Right? And so this whole NPS system basically has led to the fact now our NPS score is 78, roughly, months in a row, around 78 plus, of course, which is kind of best practice to be around that score. And the only way that we've gotten there is by very strict, disciplined follow up with all our stakeholders every month, and with a very simple question. So not hiding behind KPIs or this is my scope and this is not my scope. No. So why don't you recommend the GCC? What is it that you're not happy about? So we ask for very quality feedback. We put action plans in place. Next month we go back. This was the feedback that you gave. This is what we did about it. So NPS has become one of those KPIs that we think is even more important than the SLAs and the KPIs. Because again, this is about the perception. The way I've always mentioned it to my team is if I travel to Belgium or to New York and I'm standing at the coffee machine and I'm overhearing some of our people from the business talking about the GCC, what are they saying? I want to know what they are saying.
Right.
I want to know, and that's what the purpose is of this NPS. If this score is minus 40, it means that at the coffee machine, people will be saying, oh, GCC, these guys really don't understand the business. They make so many mistakes. That's what I will be hearing at the coffee machine. I don't want to hear that because I will not be able to grow as a GCC if this is a type of perception that I have.
Correct.
Even if my SLAs are green, KPIs are green, doesn't matter because the perception that people have will overrule every single KPI that I send. If I go to the coffee machine and the feedback is, wow, I was talking to these people from the GCC this week and they're implementing new capabilities and we're going to talk about this process improvement and wow, this is great. Okay, then I have an amazing perception, which means that my collaboration will be 10 times better and there's going to be potential to grow, right? Because people who really support or promote our GCC will bring us also more business. So this NPS is like the structural thing that we've put in place. But next to that, I think the formal or the informal, contact is also very, very important. And you can see there in the last 2 years, this is something that we have missed. So nobody has been able to visit our GCC. Nobody has seen physically our employees. And I think that really makes a difference. People inviting your stakeholders, let them visit the office, meet with everybody, go for a beer in the evening. That makes a huge difference. We've had many cases before COVID, when we had stakeholders visiting us that came with a lot of concerns and some doubts, and they would leave at the end of the week and they would be fully convinced of the center just because they have met personally with people and they have seen the dedication and the commitment of those people. Makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Switching back on your personal side, as you're taking a new assignment, Serge, and also moving back to Belgium. And I'm sure if I reflect upon, and I've met you from, rather, I've known you from last few years, you're leaving a legacy, a great legacy. Uh, what is that, the kind of, I would say, next assignment you're trying to build? And would you like to share the kind of, let's say, things what you would be doing in your next stint with the new
Yeah.
assignment?
Yeah, I would love to because I'm quite excited about this next role, in fact, that I just started. So first of all, I'm moving back to Belgium. Yeah? So as I said, it's going to be adapting to my home country.
It's a full circle back, actually.
Yeah, there's going to be some adaptation there needed. But the good thing is I'm taking my Royal Enfield, so I'll
Right.
be driving it there. I'm gonna learn how to make dosa and samosas before I go, so at least I can keep some of those habits. But the job itself, I think, is great. So basically, I'm starting a new venture in AB InBev. So I'm moving after 15 years in the company and 25 years in total in my career. I'm moving again into a very risky job, which is setting up a new venture. And so here we have the ambition to set up a company that will bring the capabilities of our GCC to the market. So we believe we've built some amazing capabilities that we can offer to other companies, either other GCCs who want to accelerate on that journey, or just other companies, other functions that want to also accelerate their journey. So we're looking at different type of product offerings. One that we're fully exploring at the moment. We have a first customer already, and hopefully in the next 2 months we're able to secure another one or two customers. So the product that we're really doubling down on today is AI in finance. Yeah, this is our focus area today. We believe that in the last 4 years we've developed a number of products that really bring AI and machine learning into finance operation. So I'm talking about OTC, P2P, FP&A, treasury, control, all of those functions where we have really brought AI and machine learning into that operation.
Right.
With the big benefit of two things. One is actually delivering value to literally millions of dollars that we have delivered for AB InBev, that we can recognize in the balance sheet or in the P&L better as savings delivered by those products. And second is the risk reduction and the error rate reduction. Becoming a lot more proactive by having the algorithm figure out where is risk in your balance sheet, where is risk in your financial transactions, where are potential errors in your balance sheet or your financial transactions, and proactively flag those outliers so that the operation can handle them before they actually occur. Right? What happens a lot, and then everybody who works in the GCC will recognize, is that every day you get some escalation of a wrong payment, a double payment, a customer that has moved into bad debt, an accrual that was over accrued or under accrued. I mean, there's so many things in finance operations that can go wrong. So we're creating this product that has a number of algorithms running in it that will basically flag these type of errors and risks before they actually occur, and so for you to fix them in your books proactively. That's what we're working on. So exciting role. Moving back to Belgium, happy to see friends and family back, but I also hope to be very regularly back in India because I will for sure miss this place. And an amazing role is an entrepreneurship type of role. So very different to my previous one. I'm managing almost nobody. I have a team of 3-4 people. Selling is half of my day now, selling our products, and the other half of my day is trying to figure out the strategy of this venture.
Must say, Serge, I think it's a pleasure knowing you. Over the last few years, we must have met multiple times, but I think what strikes me amazingly well, what you've done is this experience, what you carry over the last 25 years, is very multidimensional and multifarious, as we call it, because uh, none of the two stints were similar, alike. And still, you've been able to kind of create a legacy through the kind of work what you've done, the diligence what you've shown, and I'm sure in your new assignment you will do well because you've learned the tricks of the trade, and now it's all about kind of replicating. Of course, the canvas, as you rightly said, is open. There is a lot of things to be accomplished. There are challenges, but I think yes, it's something what great leaders are all about. But thank you so much for your time. It was great listening to you, and must say I think these nuggets of anecdotes, illustrations, and incidents what you provided were absolutely exemplary. Wish you all the best, Serge, and thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Samir, and good luck with 3AI.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
You.
Thank you. Bye bye.